Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of Moonlit Conversations with Hearts, Minds, and Families. This topic that we have today is, we picked FOMO, which is fear of missing out. And when I thought of FOMO, I thought of two different aspects of it. One is when we see couples and their families online, on Facebook, on YouTube, or even if we're invited to their houses and into their spaces, we see the houses that they live in, we see the dinners that they invite us to, and how they seem so maybe carefree and we're really anxious or whatever it is. And we feel like, why can't I have that? Why can't this be for me? Or somebody just bought a house and you can't afford to buy a house and you've been trying. And man, I've been working for years and years and years, and we've been struggling, and we still can't, get to this goal. And this other family, it seems to come really easy to them. And you feel jealous, like, why can't that be me? And then there's the other aspect of it, which is you kind of feel this envious feeling. So it's essentially jealousy and envy. So you feel this envious feeling, and I sent everybody the video of, what was her name? Selma Hindi. She talks about your shadow self and how she explains it really well. And then she posted a recent video where she gave some examples of what your shadow self would sound like, where you basically are jealous of somebody else, but you don't realize that it's jealousy, and it comes about as like a hatred. Like you see somebody doing something and you say, oh, I could never do that. That would never be me. But it's really just your inner insecurities that are projected on that that particular thing. Seema, what are your thoughts on this?
That's where my mind went to when we first started talking about FOMO. It's mostly the jealousy, the wanting something from someone else's relationship, but always or not necessarily realizing that we're only seeing a small portion. So seeing somebody else's relationship in front of you is the same as looking at somebody's Instagram account, right? You're getting the part of them that they're willing to show you, and you're not seeing everything that goes on behind. So whether it's good or bad, like the good would be all the work that gets put into the relationship, right? If somebody is actively working on the relationship and putting in the work, and then you get to see the output from that, right? So there's that aspect to it. Or behind the scenes, things are not as great as they seem, and you're still only seeing a part of it. But then you sit back and be like, oh, I wish that was us. And the problem with that is, as with anything else, when you're jealous of somebody else's something, you waste so much of your time and energy doing that, that you don't have time to appreciate what you have, right? You're looking right past the things that you have that maybe somebody else doesn't have. And, you're always, the grass is greener. You're looking for those 1-2 specific things that somebody else has. So, even when I presented this question to people on Instagram, that's kind of the responses I was getting was, okay, these people get to do this one thing. What date nights was one. Someone was like, I really, really wish we could go on date nights. And that is definitely a big one. Like for me, I have my in-laws here. We're able to do that. We're able to go on date nights. We're able to go to the gym on the weekends together and do some things. And someone else looking in is like, man, I really, really wish I could have those date nights too. But on the other hand, I have my in-laws living with me, and that's hard. It's not like I love them and we have a great relationship, but it's hard to have other people living in your house all the time. So there's a give and take to that. It's not all just date nights and going out and having a great time. There's a balance there that we have to give to them also, in order to have them watch the kids so we can go do things. And so that it's not everything is as it seems. What about you, Shahnila?
You know what you were saying right now, somebody might listen to that and be like, oh yeah, she gets to go out on weekends with her husband.
Yeah.
But okay, so that's okay. I feel better because you have your in-laws with you. I don't, but I feel better. It's almost like sometimes we look for that, look for something that, it can't be perfect. There probably is something that I have that they don't. Yeah. So I have that independence, and she doesn't, so then you feel better. And that in itself is FOMO, right? Because you're looking for, how about if someone did have all those things and they didn't have all the setbacks?
Yeah.
Like, would we still be happy for them? Or are we only happy for people when we know that they do have struggles too? I mean, everybody has struggles, but how about if their struggles aren't really that big and they're really genuinely happy and they have all the things that you would want?
Or we just view their struggles as not being as bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's the thing that we look for that sometimes, right? Like we want to see their struggles too, just so we can feel better.
Right.
aren't we taught that whatever you're missing, whatever you don't have, look at the other one who doesn't have what you have, and then say shukr,
That's true.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So the question that came to my head is, when we are saying, okay, she doesn't have what I have, so alhamdulillah, it's okay. Is that a good thing?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're grateful for what you have, then yes. If you are, I guess I see it as kind of fake it till you make it kind of thing, because we're not all, especially considering our childhoods and stuff, we're not all just gifted with this ability to just be grateful all the time. I don't know anybody, even little children, they feel jealous if one kid gets a lollipop and they don't get it, you know? So I think it's fine. It's more of a fake it till you make it. And then soon it just becomes second nature to be like, Allah has blessed me with so many things. Allah has blessed me with this. I don't even need to worry about that.
And constant reminders, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying. Like that's an interesting point, though, to be like, okay, in order to feel better, I have to think of those less than me. That's a really interesting thought. Because even like just before we got on, and I was talking about my sink is broken, my dishwasher's broken, and just today I was talking to the girls, and I was like, no, but alhamdulillah that we have these things. Like I don't have to walk 10 miles to get water. Like, yeah, it's annoying. I keep getting sprayed in the face, and then my things are falling out of my dishwasher. It just so happens that it happened at the same time, and it's unfortunate and annoying a little bit, but I'm very grateful that I can still do the dishes in my kitchen and I don't have to go through all these hardships to do basic things. But that's very interesting that I had to go there, like, I don't have to walk 10 miles in order to just be grateful for what I have versus just being grateful to be grateful.
Yeah.
I feel like in our marriages, we tend to look at others and just be like, well, I want that. And that's normal to do that, right? You want certain things.
Yeah.
I guess maybe you really have a desire. And when you see somebody else who has it, then you're reminded of that deeper desire that you want. So it's kind of like, well, I want that too. So before I had kids, when I was working, I had a coworker who, when it was his girlfriend or his wife or whoever his partner's birthday, they would be like, okay, our whole team would, on break, we're like, oh, we'll help you, pick something out. They're like, oh yeah, help me pick. And he bought like really expensive things. And I was just like, wow, it's just a birthday. And he spent like hundreds of dollars. And I was like, wow. And I was like, and I came home and I was like, I want gifts because that's something that's maybe part of my love language, right?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. When I saw it, then I was like, oh, I want that. So I think part of it is like a lot of people may just have that desire and just kind of leave it inside. But I communicated that to my husband. But the thing is that that person, maybe he knew exactly what she wanted, what her taste is and everything like that. And my husband, he doesn't, or he didn't, so when he did give me a gift, it wasn't like, before I was like, the grass is greener because look, he always buys her gifts.
Yeah.
So my husband started doing that, but it wasn't the same because he doesn't have the same taste as I do.
But
and also
his alarm to come give you a hug every day at 3 p.m. is the question.
Yeah. Exactly. So that was back then. I didn't do that, but that's where it started. Where I'm just like, hey, I want these things.
But
or maybe I thought that's how
also, Shahnila, also, did his girlfriend really like those things that he got?
Yeah,
okay, all right. Because then there are people that are, their love language is gifts, and so they think they have to give gifts to their spouse, and their spouse, that's not their love language.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's a learning process where you're like, okay, well, you thought you were going to feel this way, but someone else did. Maybe somebody
Right.
else did, or maybe they didn't even, like you said, maybe she didn't like it, or, whatever. But it was just the act of, I just saw it from his point of view.
Mhm.
And I'm sure if my husband's coworkers went with him to pick out my gift, they probably felt the same way. Like they looked at it from his point of view, like he's happy, he wants to get something, for his wife.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that part. I just was looking at the receiving part, So it's, the grass is really green. You think it's greener,
Yeah.
but we're standing in a lawn that's green itself. And we're not looking at our lawn, we're looking at someone else's lawn.
Right. That's what that saying is, right? The grass is greener, but it would like, don't worry about theirs, water yours. You know, like basically put
the grass
work
is greener
in
where you water it.
Yes, there you
Yeah.
go.
I
and
love that.
and everybody's relationship is so unique, right? Your personalities are unique, your love languages are unique. So again, like you're only seeing a part of it and you don't know what went into that little bit that you're getting a glimpse of. And like on Instagram and stuff, I share so much about homeschool and I'm so aware of it. When people like message me and give me compliments, it makes me so uncomfortable because I'm like, well, no, you don't understand. Like this is not it. This is not all there is. There's so much going on behind the scenes. Like I feel really guilty about it. I don't like that.
And I think I have a problem being complimented anyway, that
Yeah.
I've just been trying to work on, like not immediately saying negative things about like myself or the situation. But now I'm just like in that awkward phase where I'm just like, oh, thank you. I don't know how to deal with the situation, but I'm like, I shouldn't put myself down too, but I don't know how to move forward.
I know. Yeah, I know
You
exactly.
look so great today.
Thank you.
Yes. That's true though. That's genuine.
Let's put her on the spot immediately.
Thank you. I'm wearing clothes.
Somebody else had responded, confidence in your relationship. And she had sent it a couple times and I didn't fully understand. But what I think she was saying is how some people have the confidence in not being jealous when their significant other is like talking to somebody else. So like, I think even in like work situations and stuff, like if your husband is at work and he works with a lot of women, I think she's saying she feels a little jealous of how confident people are. And yeah, it's fine. Who cares? Let them go to work and talk to whoever they need to talk to. And what do you guys think about that?
Confidence in your relationship. Maybe it's just like you are sure about the bond that you have with your significant other and like accepting what Allah has given you right now instead of instantly feeling like inadequate. Like I need to have more. I wish that he would do this. I wish that I had that. Look at this mom that gets to stay home with her kids. I wish that I had that. Or if you're home with your kids, oh, look at that mom. She's working and I'm just stuck home with the kids. And I wish that I had that.
Iram, did you want to say something?
Yes. Husna said you are a little lucky that you came like right after YouTube came online. I don't understand. Was it down? Maybe.
I don't know.
I think so.
But yeah. Okay. So I wanted to say this. Confidence. When you said that your spouse is working in a workspace where he can be attracted to other women, but you need to be confident about yourself. So that stems from two things. That stems from your own low self-esteem or good self-esteem. And it also stems from the fact that how is the husband behaving towards you? How is the relationship going at home? How is the communication? How is the trust? How are the triggers? So I don't know how to answer that question, because from my perspective, I've actually never been to my husband's workspace. I've never met. Okay, that's an exaggeration. Maybe once in like 10, 15 years, twice I've met people in different job settings. And that was a very small, understanding of what he's working with, whom he's working with. Then he traveled a lot, and he traveled internationally and nationally. And he said this to me once, and he did bring this up, subhanAllah. And he said, Iram, do you think that when people travel, especially with their business partners or with their colleagues, nothing is happening between them? Okay, alarms went like ding, 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 ding. I was like, husband, yeah, let's talk about what's happening between them. So he was like, no, I'm just saying. And
So
I'll say this very sincerely. Things might have happened between people. Let's just say, I'm not going to put him on spot, and I'm not going to like say he did it or he did not. That's not the thing. The conversation is just the mere fact that your spouse is saying something means a lot of things. You need to pay attention. But then the second part comes in. Are you going to behave like are you going to behave like agitated and what is going to happen? What is going to happen? Or are you just going to let it go? Because in my head, so my personality is, if he's coming to me and he's saying to me something, I registered that. I said alarms went away. Okay, ding, 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 happened. But I just kept quiet because sincerely, what am I going to do? I don't have enough money for a private detective. I wish I did. I don't have that. And so I'm just going to monitor how our relationship is. He's a smart guy. After that comment, he made sure that he bought me gifts and flowers and, took me out and brought extra stuff for me. So mashallah, tabarakallah, that ting, ting, ting just went off. But it did, but I did not verbally say anything.
Yeah.
And I there was
what
no
did you think he wanted you to say?
Yeah. I don't think he thought that I would say anything. I don't even know why out of the blue that thing came out. And that is why that was problematic for me. No, see, if a story is going on and after a scene, another scene appears, then you understand, you connect two things. But if out of nowhere something appears, then there's a reason for it to appear.
Right.
And that is the test of the confidence in a relationship. Either you let it be and it's okay. Time will tell whatever it is. Or you force your spouse in the direction where maybe they might be thinking, but they're not going. They're not yet going. So just let it be. Just stop that you are not going to miss out on anything. There's no missing on the information of what's happening in his head, because like after 15 years of marriage, like really I don't even bother of what's happening in my spouse's head. Like, come on. There are better things to do in life.
I mean, honestly, too, like I have so much anxiety, right? I always talk about that. I've got all this anxiety with all kinds of things, but with him and with my kids, it's like, that's one place where the anxiety is kind of low, where I'm like, listen, I don't have any control over what you think and what you do. So I'm just going to focus on, how we feel and not worry about what could happen, what could possibly happen. It's just, I don't know. I have no control over him. So no matter what I do, no matter what I say, no matter what I think, if something was going to happen, it's going to happen. So I just focus on the relationship. I focus on what we have. And I have no doubt in my mind that I, can trust him, but I'm also not stupid. I know that people have trusted their spouses in the past and things have happened. And so it's like, you have to decide how much effort and time and thought you want to put towards those things, and understand that it's time wasted regardless, because you could be using that time to focus on your relationship instead of feeling jealous. And because all those things manifest and they come out in one way or another. It's not like it's just going to stay in your head and stay in your heart. It's coming out, whether it's just being like irritated and agitated and how you speak to him, whatever it is, or her, but it comes out. So if we can just put that to the side and focus on the positive and focus on what you have, then it's like you don't necessarily have to worry about it, because there's nothing you can do anyway.
Oh, I remember now. I kept saying, no, I don't get jealous. I don't get jealous. I remember so clearly now when I got jealous. Funny story. Okay, this was a few years ago. My in-laws were here as well. They were going to get they had a procedure to be done. They were with my sister-in-law's place, and we had to fly from here and go over there. And so my kids got a separate seat. I got a separate seat, and my husband got seated behind me with a young, beautiful blonde American. Khalas, 2 hours, they did not stop talking. I was like, if I was sitting to exactly that same age of a man, and he was handsome, and I was talking to him 2 hours, and you were sitting and listening, now I can't even imagine the tantrum you would throw. 2 hours that this man did not stop talking to that girl. And that poor girl, subhanAllah, at the end of the flight, she looks at me and she smiles, and I'm like, I just give her a death stare. I don't, and I was like, I give her a death stare. It's not her, bichari, matlab, what was her problem? She didn't do anything. It was my husband. He was so overly excited talking to her. The conversation was interesting. Okay, now if you ask me what the conversation was, it was just about Islam. He was actually giving dawah to her. I was like, and I was like, what? You wanted to make her your second wife? Like, in my head, I didn't say that to him. I didn't, because he was so amused by the fact that I had my mood off. He was like, hey, somebody is jealous. No, I'm not. But yeah, I got jealous. I remember now so clearly. I don't. So for anybody who's listening to this, I've been trying to understand what FOMO is, and Seema told me, Iram, jealousy. And I don't get jealous. Oh, no, Seema, I got jealous that day so bad. Oh.
And it's a combination of jealousy and like desire for something specific for your marriage. You know what I'm saying? Like it's jealousy for things, I don't know, that just make the marriage seem like it's thriving.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, that's something that maybe you're lacking, and you can turn that into, hey, evaluating and thinking, hey, is there something else that I'm lacking that I really do need? Mm-hmm. Maybe we do need to go out more. I didn't realize that until I noticed all these other people doing it. Maybe there's a deep desire for me to connect with you. Maybe that's the real desire, and it's coming out like this. So that could be one thing that I think a lot of people overlook. And also maybe, like, let's say, going back to what we were talking about, being suspicious. Mm-hmm. Maybe you do have a reason, and you're just,
that's true.
And maybe there is something going on. So also, let's be intuitive, but not jealous. So if you're like, I'm not a jealous person, but I see all these red flags, don't ignore them either.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's a very good point. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
So I actually, in my head, I was thinking that it means like if we, like we did discuss this, like seeing other mothers, entrepreneurs, other bloggers, influencers doing this and doing that and doing this and doing that, and then feeling, oh my God, I'm not even like halfway. How am I going to do this?
But also like talking about the shadow self too, that's where my thought was going. That someone, when she talks about the shadow self and about how when we're not allowed to do things, it makes us feel that jealousy. And something that's strong in the community is not showing physical affection to our partner. And so I know that a lot of people, if they see like another couple, even just like cuddling and holding hands, are like, oh, look at them all over each other.
Yes,
and
that's a really good example. Yes.
Go get a room.
Yes.
People are so offended by that. And that is for sure like a deep down jealousy thing, because who doesn't want that? And it's like, but you can do that. You can do that, right? There are limits, you know what I mean? You don't have to be all over each other, but hugging and holding and, holding hands and just sitting close to each other. It's that physical connection is, again, so important in your relationship. And I mean, if you're around people a lot, then just, I don't know, show it. You know what I mean? Just go, I don't know, what do you want to do? You're just going to hide it all the time?
But there's another factor. People are also, at least in Muslim community, people are also very suspicious of ayn, the evil eye.
Yeah.
So they don't do it. It's not like they're not affectionate towards each other. They're just more mindful, or they're more scared, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, right. So okay. And there are so many scenarios. There's this couple who has this outside image and they want to maintain it. And so they hold hands, and inside they're like barking at each other all the time. One couple. The other couple, they're very comfortable with each other. They're actually very physically affectionate, but not in front of the Muslim community, because, okay, so non-Muslims don't have ayn. My question is, but khalas, let's just leave that. Then number 3 is where, like you said, somebody else is doing it and you see them and you feel that, emptiness. Like, I wish I had this with my spouse. There was once this lady, she used to give halaqas in our community, and then she became a widow. And when she became a widow, of course, everybody comes and everybody consoles and everybody says something. And one of these ladies, I don't know. So when this widow person is narrating the story to me, I got the feeling as if she was angry at this person who's coming to console. And you can figure out why, or maybe my understanding is wrong. So she comes to the widow and she says, you know what? Every time you both came to the masjid, you were always holding hands, and he was always talking to you. Like if anybody said salam, he would not know that somebody just said salam to him, because he was so into talking to you. I always used to wonder, you come from the same home, you're in the same car, you're holding hands, still you're talking to each other. Like I used to say, like, oh mashallah, like, you know, I used to feel something. I used to feel jealous. She was so blunt. She said, I used to feel jealous. Now, just understand, I think this was not the point to say those things to the person who had just lost a loving spouse. Her spouse was a loving one, right?
Yeah.
And so this widow, she was never able to forgive this other little woman. She plainly said, she gave me an evil eye. Come on, I don't think she gave her an evil eye. She was just being honest. Like I don't know what she was feeling and why she said those things. I would be very careful of saying any of those things to anybody, but subhanallah. So these are a few factors, I think, within our Muslim community where we show affection or we don't show affection.
That's true. But even in their own home, like I know people who won't do it in front of their children, and that's a big thing.
There's an important
That's
question before I
cultural.
forget. Sorry.
That's a really big cultural one, not to show
Yeah.
affection, and you know, especially in the Desi culture.
There are
The
memes.
husband comes near you, you're like, oh, like that. Like, oh my god, what are you doing?
There are memes like Muslim parents, they only, their kids have never seen them even kiss each other, even pep each other on the cheek, and then they have 6 to 10 children, mashallah. So, alhamdulillah. So Hausa family has actually asked a very important question. He says, any advice or experience with baby FOMO for couples who want kids, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not blessed them with one yet, or if it ever? That's a very good question. And I think
That's a
two of
very
you can
hard
relate
question.
to it.
I had that. I mean, I didn't have kids for almost 7 years. I think the 7th year of marriage, that's when I had kids. So
Yeah.
of course, when we saw, there was one time somebody that we know, they were expecting their second. And I didn't know. And I was like, oh, I heard you guys are expecting. And they were like, yeah, you know, like they didn't want us to feel bad because we didn't even have one. And actually in my husband's family, we were the first ones to get married out of the cousins. I mean, one of the first ones, maybe like the third. And then there's like 6 other cousins got married, and all of them, 5 of them had kids before us. You know, so they were all like, okay, maybe like, you know, it's a sensitive topic, you know, we don't know what's going on, so we won't say anything. So that was going on. But then there was somebody who also would always be like, oh, when are you gonna have kids? And I was doing my master's then, and then my mom was like, oh, maybe she'll work after, maybe, you know, she'll wait, what's the rush? And she was like, no, you know, she would always ask me at every family gathering. And then later, eventually she was like, you know what? I'm just jealous because you get to do whatever you want and you don't have kids, and I have to, you know, I have kids, and like, I didn't even get to finish school or do XYZ, you know, and here you are living it up. You're like a free bird and I'm not. And I'm like, so when I have kids and I'm kind of locked on and I have to get up and I have to do all this stuff, then you'll feel better. So it's kind of like you're stuck and you want me to be stuck. And she's like, yeah, I do. So it goes both ways, you know, and sometimes it is hard. Like now I see people who don't have any kids yet for a while. And I'm just like, you know what? Like Allah knows the best time for everything, or not. And there's a blessing in that time too. Before you have kids, you can never go back. You know, I tell, you know, couples, I'm like, you know, just wait. Why are you in a rush? Because you can never have this time again.
Yeah.
But it's hard because you see everybody else, and you get to see the cooing and the joy and the gifts and the baby shower, but you don't get to see the struggles. And it's really hard. You know, parenting is really hard.
Yeah. And I think too, like a big part of that is not the guilt or even the shame, but just the constant questioning from people of when are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids? And some people are struggling, like we used fertility treatments to have my oldest. And so it was like 5 years, 6 years before we realized like, okay, we need to figure something out. Something isn't right. But in the meantime, oh, when are you going to have kids? You should have kids constantly, all the time. And, luckily, like I'm not super sensitive to it. It didn't, not until the very end did it start to bother me, but it's still just annoying and frustrating. And it makes it really hard for people who are struggling. And I think that's a little bit more well known now. I think it's a little more frowned upon to constantly be harassing somebody, but still it happens, as soon as people get married, okay, time to have kids. And that's hard. But
by Walima, like, are you pregnant?
Seriously, it's so
I mean,
like
it's really like before you get married, it's always like, when are you getting married? When are you getting married? And then when you get married, then it's like, when are you having kids? And until you have kids.
Yeah.
But the thing is that one thing that I did that I wouldn't have, that I wish I didn't, was that I didn't live in the present. I was always like, okay, well, maybe I'll get pregnant, so I'm not going to accept this promotion. I'm not going to try for this other position, because how about if I get pregnant while I'm in this position or this project? So I turned down a lot of things instead of just living and just seeing like whenever that happens, it'll just, we'll work it out. I was trying to plan for the future, and you can't really do that.
No, you can't. And you never know what card you're going to be dealt either. You plan for a healthy and easy birth and child. And, no matter how much planning you do, you don't know what's going to happen in the end. And, so when it's right, it's right. And everything else will fall into place because you're going to have to adjust regardless. Now we're planning on talking about like our birth stories too. And so it'll come up then, but, birth isn't easy, and all kinds of complications can come up. And even like with fertility treatments, like it's not covered by insurance. So like it had to come out of pocket. It had to, so there's financially, were we ready? No, we were still young, and you just have to come up with it. But regardless, when talking about FOMO and babies, when you have that desire, it's nothing eases that. There's nothing that we can say that'll really ease that. You can say like, enjoy this time and stuff, but when you're done enjoying that time and you're ready for a baby, there's just nothing that you can do to ease it.
See, there's as an ummah, what is our upbringing? What is our thought process? That we're supposed to have children.
Yeah.
Right? Pick up any ethnicity, Muslim, Western, Eastern, Northern, Southern, whatever. The first the mindset is, at some point I am going to have kids. Some say, oh, I will decide when I want to have kids, and some say it will happen when it will happen, right? The FOMO is very genuine over here, because there is no, until somebody knows that they cannot have kids, and then they go into marriage telling the other person, listen, marry me only because I'm not going to have kids regardless. Don't
Right.
push me into having kids, because that's never going to happen. And then those two people come together and they get married. That is a totally different story, and that is the most rare story happening, right? Even before we are getting married, we are already imagining a house full of children. So how is it possible? Like Seema said, nothing can actually, I don't know what the word
Ease
is.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Once you're ready for that baby, it's really hard to get past that. It's really hard to just put that aside when you see people having children, and, you put yourself in that place of wanting to have a baby and care for it and have the struggles that new parents have of being up all night and stuff. You start to really just yearn for it. And I don't know. I don't think that there's anything anybody can say.
What really helped me was making dua, and trusting that, what, it isn't that, oh, I want this and I don't have it. It was more like, Allah, you know when the perfect time is for it. So every time I felt that, I would lean into making dua to Allah and on my relationship with Allah. And that eased that. That was really where I felt at peace, was crying to Him and telling Him that, when the right time is, I don't. And until that, I really believed that. And that really eased it for me, where I was like, okay, I'm not stressed about it anymore.
But that requires a lot of character,
Mhm.
right?
And that's the point of the struggle, is that Allah wanted me to get there. He wanted me to beg him so much and be so humbled and be so drawn towards. And I feel like after I did have kids, then I realized that point was very, very important in my growth, my personal growth, where that you, when Allah wants you to beg him for something. And then you see the wisdom in after, because what is it? What do they say for what your vision is always 2020, like
Oh, hindsight is
Hindsight.
2020.
Mhm.
hindsight, yeah. So when you look back, you're like, oh, that's why. Like, no wonder, of course. Like, I wouldn't want to have, my kids a year earlier, a month earlier. It was just like the perfect time.
Right.
SubhanAllah. And then there are people who will never have kids. And we listen to these stories, like there was this, she has passed away, this teacher in Egypt who through her hands came out thousands of huffaz, hundreds of thousands of huffaz. She was married, but she never ever had children. And somebody asked her, like, don't you wish you had your own children? And her answer was so beautiful. Her answer was, if I had my children, I wouldn't have the honor of being the teacher of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people. Even some of the shuyukh that are muazzins or qaris in Mecca and Medina came through her. Can you imagine? And she said, I couldn't have reached my potential. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made me for. But again, these are just stories of other people, like what you went through or what you went through. I cannot fathom. I really cannot. I cannot. So
Yeah, but like Shahnila said too, like, and I'm just thinking this now as you said it, but had I not gone through fertility treatments, I don't know that I would have gone down the path of peaceful parenting and homeschooling and stuff.
Mhm.
It's almost like, I worked so hard to have this baby. I need to be the best I can be for this. Like, I begged for this baby. So I need to be the best version of myself for this baby. So it's like, I don't know that it would have meant that much or been that deep to me had I not had the struggles first.
Right. If it all came easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had somebody tell me, I think it was one of my aunts, who had younger kids, and they were like, dude, just enjoy what you have right now and it'll come, like, don't, why are you rushing everything? Just like, work, like you have so much you could do right now. Like, you just finished your master's, just work for a couple of years. It's not going to be the same after you have kids. So do all those things. And there's always things that we could do, like go travel more, go do all these things. So by the time I did, I felt like, yeah, I did everything. I didn't have the other phone where I'm just like, oh, where some people may have, is that, oh, I didn't get to do this, I didn't get to do that. That really, really, really helped.
So,
How are you feeling, Mariam?
never happy with anything. MashaAllah. Same old story over and over again.
It is. It's about like being I don't know, identifying what you're feeling first, because sometimes it's hard to identify, like, why am I feeling angry when I'm talking to this person about, or when I'm listening to this person talk about their family or the struggles that they're having with their job or whatever the case may be. Like, why am I feeling this way? And then if you identify that it is like jealousy or envy, what is your plan now toward moving away from that? So is this something that you really want, or is it something that like the shaitan wants you to think that you want, so that you will continue to like spiral in this hatred or this negative emotion, basically? And if it is something that you want, what are you going to do to work toward it? If it's, you don't have a house and you go to visit somebody's house, they invite you over, and you start feeling this jealousy inside of you. Maybe you don't understand what it is, and then you identify this jealousy. Well, okay, well, it's because you want a house and you haven't been able to get it. What are you going to do toward working toward that goal? Because I feel like that all the time, but I have to remind myself, because I don't own a house, and I've always wanted to own a house, but we lived in Jersey for so long, and the real estate prices were just terrible. And then we moved down here and we had our financial struggles here in Georgia, and we're just like getting to the point where we're getting rid of all of our debt, but we don't have money saved for a house at all. And then the housing market is just going up. And my husband and I were talking about this the other night, that it seems like every time we get a little bit closer to the goal, then like the goal is pushed like 5 miles away from us. And it's so easy to like see other people achieving these goals that you have for yourself, and you have to remind yourself, I didn't make it to these steps that I put forth for myself. So we had put forth, okay, we want to have a safety net, which we never had. We've never been financially smart, I guess. We never had like emergency savings, they say you should have for 6 months, and we've never really had that. And I work as a nurse, so I would just like pick up extra shifts if I needed to. And then before we had kids, we would just spend all our money on everything, because I mean, you're just living the life, right? So spend. And then when we had our first child, we just spend all the money on him, and he had like so much clothes that when we had the twins, I didn't have to buy any clothes for them because they had enough. And they still have enough hand-me-downs that I don't really have to buy pants for them. And like they have just so much. But when we realized like, okay, we really would like to get a house or whatever, we put forth like these goals for ourselves to work toward that, so that we don't feel this need to, when we see other people achieving that specific goal, we don't feel that, why don't I have it? Why don't I have it? We remind ourselves, okay, well, you didn't get to X, Y, and Z yet, so you just shut up about it, basically.
It's make a plan. Make a
Right.
plan instead of wasting your time being jealous. Instead of wasting your time wishing for something, put in the work. And again, of course, there are some things you just can't do that with.
Right.
Having children, for instance, there's some things you can't do that with, but wherever you can, try.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of that. Let's see. So the last one that I had written down for today is, somebody had said, when couples do healthy things together is when they feel the most FOMO, because one person in the relationship is really interested in doing healthy things and being active and experiencing like adventures and things like that. And the other one is just not interested. And then so it's like a miss in interests, I guess, so I think that's more the point, is being on the same page when it comes to having fun and doing things together.
My thoughts on that are there any other ways that you can do things together besides, like, usually we fixate on, because maybe we like follow a lot of like pages, or like our friend group has a lot of couples that do this particular thing together. And is it that we want it because of some internal desire that we really just want a husband that will do that, or a wife that will do that with us? Or is it because that is what we're visually intaking into our minds as we scroll through the day? And if it is not, and you just are wanting that, that connection to be able to do something with your spouse, what else can you do with them? Because you don't have to do everything with your spouse. It's really nice to not have to do everything with your spouse. I would say, just what else can you do with them? There's a million things. Try something new together and do that.
I think I agree with that. I think for her specifically, it was the healthy aspect of it, like trying to improve her health.
Going out for walks.
Yeah, things like that when they're not on board. Because I know, like, even for myself, I have a sweet tooth, and it is hard for me to do anything if my husband is not on board. He needs to cut sugar if I'm going to cut sugar. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So we are all on a diet if I'm on a diet, and that's what's happening in my house right now. But we talked about it, and I tried to get them to an understanding of why we're doing it. But he's not a big sweet tooth anyway. So it wasn't too hard to get him on board. So I know that struggle though, because I don't have enough willpower. I could not do it if my husband was bringing home sweets or unhealthy foods or didn't want to go to the gym, because he encourages me to go. He's like, well, I'm going today, you're going tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. I tell him to do this and then I regret it so much. I'm like, tell me to go. And then he tells me to go. And I'm like, I don't want to go.
Why did you tell me this?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's hard if one person wants to do something and they want the other person to be on board and they're not. And at that point, they have to just do it themselves if they're doing it for themselves, because you can't really rely on the other person, because that might not be their goal. That's your goal, not his goal.
But
a lot of things
that comes with but that comes after some time of marriage. I think we all have marinated into our marriages that now we're okay with this. But if I look at the beginning years, the first year of my marriage or the second year of my marriage, yeah, I was so bitter about it. Like, I want to do this and you don't want to do this and you want to do this and I do not want to do this.
It's like we need marriage mentors, when we first get married.
Yeah.
And when they have like the premarital counseling, we really need counseling the first whole year of marriage.
Yeah. I mean, it takes work. And I don't think that people realize the work that gets put in. And that's not even in a negative way. It's not like, oh, it's so hard. I didn't find marriage to be hard or difficult. That wasn't my experience. But it does take intention. It does take actual, work, and like, okay, what am I going to do to help this relationship? I don't know. I want to say blossom, but that sounds like such a terrible word.
No, grow. Yeah.
Grow.
Yeah.
Grow, blossom, become, something better than we want it to be. I mean, I always joke by the end last decade of our lives, if you're married like for 50 years, we start looking like brother and sister. We actually, our faces, our symmetry, and there's a science behind it. I'm not even
going to say, I've seen that
science behind that you mirror the other person's even movements. So if they have a tilted head, the other one also has a tilted head.
Yeah.
And we've all witnessed this. If my arm is hurting, my husband's the other arm is going to start hurting instantaneously. I don't know how that happens. If he has a headache, I'm going to have that same headache. And then we laugh about it. We say, oh, don't take my thunder. Don't take my thunder. but it is like marriage is, I think, I love marriage. I really, honestly, I love this institution because this is somebody you did not grow up with, or at least you did not start living with from the get-go, and then you learn, and then they learn, and then you do things for each other because you want a happy, safe space for your children, and you want your children to learn to love and grow and all of that. And I think if I get 50% off it, alhamdulillah, I'm happy because I did it. I gained 50-50. Something is gained, right? Now I'm just veering away from the topic, but I don't know. I think for us, asking our spouse to do what we want them to do. Okay, this good one now. The Iram in me is coming out. I don't ask my spouse to do what I want him to do. I make him do what I want. There is no asking left in the relationship. There is like, okay, come on now. How am I going to make it? How am I going to come around this? How am I like, now it is like that. But my spouse has been asking me to help him lose weight for a very long time. And I've not helped him. And I'm not proud of that. I'm really not proud of that. I could have helped him. I can, if I want to, I can. And I've asked myself this question. His health is really bothering him at this point. Why am I not bothered by it? Mm-hmm. I have no answer. If you have an answer, give me an answer. I'm not bothered by his health crisis, but there is a health crisis here. And
you have a lot going on. Yeah. And not to say, if you can help him, and you want to try to help him, then that's something you can work on. But our husbands are men, they're grown men, and they are responsible for their own bodies and their own health. And yes, we can help and we can assist where we are able to, but we have our own lives, and we here, us four, are the primary carers for the children. And so there's a lot on our plate, and it is a wonderful thing to help them, but they have to take the reins, and that it's not anybody's responsibility.
And that that could be where he tells you, okay, you know what, can you make this, and this for dinner?
Right.
Like, and can you
I do
not make
that.
this?
I mean, like my mom does it. My mom takes more care of him than I do. Like, but, I mean, that's taken care of. The food is always taken care of, but it's more than food. It's exercise with me, go out for walks,
Oh,
be more active.
you go out for walks?
No, that's
So
only
what if you're on
that's only for my
making your
videos.
live? he can do your lives with you.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him.
Hold the camera for you.
Yeah, he's even told me, take your camera, take your mic. I'll walk, and you walk with me. You keep making your video.
Yeah, exactly. There you go, a new couples activity.
Right.
And just make sure, Iram, you said, I don't know what it is. Make sure it's not the 20 million life insurance that he has. That's why you don't care.
Oh, subhanallah. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, I hear it. Like when we as couples want our other better half to do something for us, or we want to do something for them, subhanallah.
And my love language is not acts of service, so it's really hard for me to do that.
Yeah.
To do, where I have to do certain things. I rather just write you a note and say that says I love you.
Maybe that's my case too.
I love you just the way you are.
That I say, that I can say. Right, I do say that.
But I think, with FOMO, some things that has helped me, or just like in general, other moms that I talk to, or other wives, is that prioritizing what's important, like certain things in your marriage that are important to you. And when you decide that you're going to focus on certain things, or that you decide that, okay, these are the things that we do, and I'm content with that. And also being really mindful. When you're mindful of what you actually do, the little things that go on, where maybe savoring the moment and enjoying the process of growing, and just focusing on yourselves versus looking at others. And if that's an issue where you have a group of friends, or you have a certain friend where every time you come back from their house, you have this feeling, maybe it's not a good idea to be around them as much. And making that decision, like, being aware of like what really bothers you and what makes you feel that way. And
I have friends, mashallah, they're awesome. They're on Zoom with me right now. Alhamdulillah. So I don't have to worry about that. Yeah, but yeah, that's absolutely true. And in all seriousness.
I wasn't talking just to you. I'm just saying in general.
Yeah. And also just the communication with your spouse, because if you're feeling this way, and it's something that you want to change, then communicate with them. And it shouldn't fall solely on like them to help to make this goal happen, because if it's something that you want, you should be working toward it as well. But the communication part is very important, because you want to grow together. You don't want to grow apart from each other, basically.
So whatever work is being done, try to find a way.
Guys.
I agree. And like we were talking about it before, we're like, we're going to see where this goes. And I think that it has ended up in a really nice place. But the work, whatever work it is that you're doing, finding a way to get it done together.
Yeah.
Whether it's you getting it started and then pulling your spouse on board and, summarizing the information and seeing what they think, like we were talking about last time, as far as connection, that's one way to do it. Getting in a third party, like I'm always mentioning, therapy, counseling, that's always a wonderful way to do it, because if you don't know how to communicate and you don't know how to get where you need to be, then having someone else's input is just helpful. It's good direction.
Right.
It's an important thing.
I liked today's conversation. I hope it would resonate with the people who will hear this later, inshallah. And don't have FOMO. That's the end of
That's the end goal.
There's no end to that. Shahnila actually, and Seema and Mariam, all three of them have actually pointed out very clearly that there's no end to it.
Yeah. Look for the source.
Yeah. Look for the source. Exactly. Inshallah. Yep. That's about from me, inshallah. Do we have a topic for next, or will we announce it later?
We'll announce it later. Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you to everyone who tuned in live. Do we have any other comments that you want to look through,
Nope,
Iram?
no other
All
comment.
right. And be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube page and also follow the conversation on Instagram on Hearts, Minds, and Families. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
All right, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum, everyone.